All right. Good morning, guys. Sorry. I had to get a few more screenshots today, so I was a little late. um, Good morning, everyone. Cheat, that girl, Seth. You mentioned Drew's birthday. His birthday's tomorrow. Okay, so we're here. We're here to talk about The Last of Us. Give me a second. I've been running around all morning. Okay. So, just to start this off, as we always do, you guys, there will be spoilers about the episode in this video, as well as spoilers up until this point from the game. We're going to do our best, right, chat, to not spoil future events for anyone here who hasn't played the game. But sometimes we touch on it just a little bit. All the screenshots. I know. It's kind of actually hard to choose, to be honest. Hey, Blubs. Good morning. But yeah, so I got to exercise, but have a nice day, everyone. Bye, Blubs. Have a good one. Have a good workout. So yeah, I'm curious, just right off the bat, I want to start this a little different. How did you guys like this episode? Like, I just want to hear an overall, like, it was amazing, it was okay, or I hated it. Like, and we'll get into specifics, but I'm curious overall how you thought. I thought this episode was great. I just would have done it a little differently, and I would have broken it up a little different, and I was very surprised on how, like, well-paced it felt, and then at the end, it was, like, just, like, super fast. So, again, we'll talk about it, but I'm curious on your thoughts. I thought it was amazing, but I also felt rushed. Give me, like, 10 more minutes of stuff. Kind of how I felt, a little bit. Yeah, that's, like, where I was kind of getting at. Definitely diverted from the game, but I enjoyed it. You know, the more episodes we get of this, it almost feels like this, like, if you played the game, amazing, great. If you watch this series, cool, amazing, great. But I almost feel like they're meant to be together. Like, I feel like, and this might seem obvious, but to get the full experience, it almost seems intentional that, like, to get that full experience, you need to play the game and watch the series. And I know there's some changes and differences, especially with, like, Frank and Bill. But, like, I'm almost wondering if sometimes they, like, make certain parts shorter because they spent so much time in those moments in the game. And I don't know if that's a really good decision or not. I'm just talking about it. Okay, so first things first. We have Joel and Ellie on foot traveling to Wyoming, and they come across this cabin where, you know, they're not lost, but they don't know where they are exactly because they're in the wilderness. And like Ellie makes a joke later on, it's not like there's signs around to tell them what street they're on. Generally fine. University was not given enough. Tommy stuff was mainly very good and powerful. It feels like they were making a point to avoid a ton of the gameplay sequences. Or even abbreviated versions. They have made a few references to certain iconic things. Yeah, and like I totally get abbreviating a lot of the combat, but you don't have to take all of it out, you know, like, which is interesting. The people who haven't played this game that I've talked to or haven't felt rushed. The gamers only feel like it's rushed. Okay, interesting. Okay. Basically, stealth combat, right? The combat scene after the ambush in KC, Pittsburgh, was done well. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Me and my mom both shouted, "Harry Clearwater," when the old man entered the cabin. Okay, yeah, I'm really... So, this is what's interesting to me. So, I did for post. I really like these moments that we have here. I'm just like with these people were new for us, and I like all the time we get with them. I don't want to get rid of these parts to get more time later. I want these parts and more time later. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's kind of like a weird, hey, Will. It's like a balancing act with this show and with the game. So like I said, I feel like I'm very spoiled. Thanks for the follow, Rotten. I think I'm very spoiled in that I got to play the game and see this. And I feel like if you only experience one, you're not getting the full story. But that's, but it still works. You didn't recognize that guy? I'd take a lot of the new stuff if we also got more. Yeah, like I don't want to get rid of this new stuff. I love this new stuff. I just don't want less of the original stuff. This lady, okay, I'm glad you guys liked her. Okay, well, that's only one person's opinion, but what were your thoughts on her? Because I loved her. I loved this couple. I know it doesn't really add a lot to Joel and Ellie's traveling and story, but I just like the diversity of people that are still alive and how they live. It's just, she's such a she just doesn't care anymore. She's just like, yeah, whatever, we're out here. Like I don't know, like the fear doesn't exist in this couple that I think you see all the time everywhere else. And I just really like that different outlook on life. Like she's so chill. She's got her rocking chair and she's just like, the gun was over there. I'm over here. Like I thought she was so fun. And the relationship was hilarious and sweet. Agreed. Happily rocking back and forth, fixing soup for a dude holding her at gunpoint. In isolation, I like this scene and these two. Okay, me too. Like I said, I really like we got this. And okay, so it's really okay. So these guys have been surviving just fine, and they were out here like pre-outbreak, which I love. I think, it doesn't seem like they come across a lot of people. But they're not like ignorant towards the way the world is. They're just kind of like Frank and Bill a little bit in their own bubble, but like a very different type of bubble. And the wilderness is more of a protection than like Bill and Frank's actual gate. And they just are really good at living alone and in isolation. Yeah, the lady laughing at Ellie disobeying Joel was so funny and lighthearted. And just like, they know how kids are. Like they're old enough to know pre-outbreak, and like they were in the city at one point. They said that they moved out here, but like they know how kids are. And seeing Ellie, like they're like, whoa, who's this little? What did he call her? Like, who's this little psychopath? And it's like, yeah, Ellie's unique. I think Ellie is unique, obviously, for like the world pre-infected, but I think she's also really unique for how the world is now. Like kids, sure, they have to grow up to be a little bit, tougher and braver. But like Ellie's beyond that point. She's like not a psychopath, but she's still, it takes a little bit of adjusting to get used to Ellie. But then like we had those little comments, like they're asking about the fireflies and she's like, oh yeah, we get those in the summer. Ellie's like, not the bug, which I thought, I like lines like that. They're really cool. She is eccentric. That's very true. Who's this little spunky munchkin? Okay, so, Joel, like, he approaches every person and every situation very seriously because he knows how hard life is, right? So, like, these people, they're kind of, like, getting the feel of, like, yeah, we could get in trouble here, but overall, we're not in danger. And then, like, Ellie's kind of like, we're fine. But Joel's very serious still. And I like he's trying to make sure that these two answers are the same. And what's neat about that is in the game, Joel and Tommy use this tactic, which we see in both part 1 and part 2, where, you isolate somebody, you ask them a question, and then you take the second person and you make sure that those answers match. As players, we've seen some pretty gruesome like trails of that, but in here I just like how they added that. Like this is how Joel and Tommy know how to live. Like you pretty much threaten people. This is how they got by. This is how they're still alive, right? Asking where the firefly, oh, there's firefly people, and then they both start laughing. Yeah, it was good. So, Kat, on the uses of the answering matching tactic, I actually am a little concerned. Maybe they'll cut the more iconic usage of it from the game. Oh, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. But, like, again, this is one of those things, like, if you play the game and watch, you get these, like, extra connections and extra, like, gaps that are filled in, and I like this one. I know which one you're talking about, Cheap. Yeah, and if you lied, you don't want to lie to Joel. Like, even if you haven't played the game, you know from this, Joel has killed people. They've killed people, and like, or as Tommy so bluntly puts it, like, we've murdered people, and they were innocent at some point, or, you know, maybe not as deserving. Yeah. Okay, so they realize that they need to keep heading west. These people are like, don't head west. Like, there's bodies. Like, we've seen the result of people heading west. It's dangerous. Don't head west. Of course, Joel's still going to head west with Ellie because they need to find Tommy. So, you know, it sucks, but they're going that way. They leave. I like how Ellie grabs a rabbit, which is, I don't know if that's like nodding to, you have to kill the rabbit in the game. So she's smart. You know, they have a full deer hanging out, multiple rabbits. It's 2 people. They're obviously like doing just fine. So stealing a rabbit from them, that's going to make the world of difference for Joel and Ellie tonight. It's not going to mean much for those 2, I don't think. I don't think this version of Joel would have hurt those people. We'll see. Are you talking about like from the, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I think he would actually, but they set up this episode to make it more impactful later when they show it in the, that's kind of where I'm leaning, Day. I mean, I don't, like, he threatens him in that regard, so I don't know why, and we know he's done stuff like that in the past, so I don't know why they would take that out of his, like, character traits or person, like, his things he would do. But yeah. I should have taken 2 rabbits. I know. She's not wrong. Giving him a real nasty look and there's some stern words. It's 100% reference to the game Rabbit. Okay, I thought so. It was pretty good. Hey, nerds. Hey, babe. But where's my brick? I know. Okay, so a couple of times in this episode, and I think I have a clip of each moment, Joel is struggling. When I saw this one here, and Lost Colony brought it up too, I was almost certain this was a panic attack. There's certain like triggers that happen right before this. The thought of so what is so it could be a couple things. People are concerned that he's having like little heart attacks or heart issues. I still am leaning towards it being a panic attack because you do get that pain in your chest when that happens. And also like very specific things are triggering it, right? So the thing that triggered this right here was the idea that this couple said, oh, well, if your brother went out west, you know, like he's dead. Like nobody survives if they go out west, right? So that's like that would start a panic attack for somebody who suffers with anxiety and PTSD, which is Joel's case for both. Agreed, it's probably a panic attack. Yeah. Dang it, I threw my brick. Yeah. We can get our own rabbits. It was so funny to me. Ellie didn't need to resort to thieving. I know, like, it's kind of crazy that, like, Joel's, like, being sweet about somebody else's materials and supplies, right? He's like, these 2 people are out here. Put it back. We can get our own rabbits. And Ellie's like, I'm just going to take the rabbit. But, like, literally as she's taking the rabbit, I don't know if you guys saw, I should have taken a picture. There's a full elk hanging there, too. So those people are doing just fine with hunting. Yeah, he hasn't slept. Like, he keeps losing sleep. He has so much anxiety. He has PTSD. So I'm pretty sure these are panic attacks. I'm hoping they don't move towards a heart attack. However, this amount of stress and anxiety with somebody at his age could lead to a heart attack. So that would be new for us. But he's definitely not doing well with these, right? I have my notes here. Yeah, okay. I'm going over my notes. Okay, and then Ellie panics here, right? Like, she's like, are you dying? Because she's like, and I think this is a good line, but she says, because if you're dead, I'm fucked. And like, she says, and I think that's a really cool way to open this episode, because at the beginning she's like, if you die, I don't know what I'm going to do. And this episode ends with you know, like the possibility of Joel dying and her going, I don't know what to do. And I really like the way they kind of like bookended this episode. Could have spent more time in Jackson. Yeah. Jackson's a cool place. It's really cool. I love Jackson. Yes, he has to keep moving forward for sure. So happy we didn't see the sandwich maker. That'll be in part 2 though, maybe. Okay, so let's move forward. Okay, so then, guys, first off, I mentioned this, but I've been camping in the summer a few times, and like some nights get so cold. Like I can't, and that's like in a tent with proper sleeping bags and like proper things to keep you warm. The idea of these guys sleeping out in the winter in the wilderness, yeah, they have a campfire, but it's still like so cold. It would suck. I don't know. Again, this just goes back to me, like I'd be dead already. I would not have survived in this world. So we have Joel taping his shoes, and I do like this too because, again, I always like the idea that he has this duct tape with him at all times because it's one of the crafting materials, and it would be such a useful resource. Hold on, I'll get to that. And then I also like the callback again to when we were in the quarantine zone, and like you saw people selling shoelaces for ration cards because like a good pair of shoes and a like properly working shoes is really important for people. Like it's like one of those things where it's like it's a luxury to have a nice pair of shoes. And so like Joel's doing what he can to like preserve his shoes because they're on foot this whole time. Like before they hit Jackson, they're walking everywhere. And that's just crazy to me. Imagine walking from state to state or from city to city. It's just insane. Fear of parents, primary caregiver. Well-being is very realistic. The fear of one's child's safety is also very realistic of Joel. It's just chef's kiss. Yeah, like that panic and everything, and it just relates back to always Sarah. Is it Jackson or Jackson Hole? I believe it's just Jackson. Definitely frostbite, too. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a really good point. They're walking in the snow all the time. He shows up in The Last of Us Part 1, does he? Oh, I didn't notice that. I just know the callback in Part 2. I love every episode so far. That's good to hear. Okay, so he's fixing his shoe. And then I like this. I know this is kind of hard to see. It was a dark scene. But first off, I just love the framing of this. But then also you have Ellie looking out into space because we hear a little bit more about it here. But Ellie wants, like, every kid, you know, every person when they're little, they get to kind of think, okay, what do I want to do when I grow up? What do I want to be when I grow up? And right now we have the luxury of being able to choose whatever we want, right? Like we can be like, I want to be an astronaut. And that's like a totally obtainable goal if you want to do that. And Ellie wants to be an astronaut. But in this world that she lives in, that's really all it is. It's a dream. And it's something that it's so sweet and it's so innocent that she has these moments because she very rarely gets to be a kid. But then you also are kind of hit with this like idea that like she's not going to be able to get that. Like kind of no matter what. The world has changed too much that people can't live out and have these dreams that they want, which is really sad because, you know, hopefully like the human race always progresses, right? We always get to like do more things, like keep advancing with science, and we were doing that in this world, and then like as a human race we like got knocked down so far that like these things that did happen that are part of our history are no longer things that you can do because it just doesn't make sense anymore. Kansas City to Wyoming isn't close hundreds of on foot. I know, right? It's like I can't imagine. Jackson Hole's in the area, Jackson is the city. Okay. And the T-Rex reference. Yes. Okay. But yeah, so I thought, sorry about my mouse. But yeah, I think that's really sad to think about. Like Ellie being like, you know, like, I don't know. The idea of like having a dream as a kid but already knowing as a kid that you're not going to be able to have that. So they're around this fire, and we have some really good conversations here. I like. First off, Ellie has a little bit of alcohol, and we learn here that this is not her first sip of alcohol because she's like, yeah, still tastes gross, which I think is a callback to the DLC, which we'll probably see on our next episode. But I think that's yeah, like I think that's one of the things where it's like I think we got to see her first sip in the game, in the DLC. I think we might be able to see that on our next episode. It's south of Tetons and Yellowstone. Okay. So you could use either term, is pretty much. You could say, I just say Jackson because they always refer to it as Jackson in the game. But then I really like this here because, spoilers. Well, here you're told that Ellie, this isn't her first sip of alcohol. So I think it's safe to assume that she's had alcohol before. I don't know how much of a spoiler that really is. It's okay, guys. We don't have to get hung up on Jackson. I think if we say Jackson County, Jackson, or Jackson Hole, we all know that we're talking about Tommy and Maria's town, right? Okay, so we get a cool conversation here, which I really wanted in the game, and I don't think it ever really happened. But Ellie asks Joel, like, what do we do next? Like, what do we do after I give my blood to the Fireflies? They make a vaccine. Like, what are our plans? And he's like, our plans? And she's like, okay, what are your plans? Because she's already thinking about her future and like her future, hopefully in her mind with Joel. We're just going to call it Jax. Yeah, Eastern Colorado, which isn't a thing. I love how, like, in Eastern Colorado, the university, too, has, like, mountains right there. And it's like, no. The further you go east, like, the less mountains you see. But it's fine. That's not important. In the Spanish dub, the cool detail is sadly lost. All she says is, yeah, that was gross. Oh, see? Okay, that's interesting. But, yeah, so they talk about the future. And I like this because it kind of, for a moment, like, Joel just, like, answers the question. He's like, I'm going to herd sheep. And he gives the reasons. They're quiet, and they do what they're told. So what is he actually talking here, like, about? He's not actually, like, I don't think he didn't really think that hard about the question because I don't think Joel thinks that far in the future, honestly. Like, I think Joel is just kind of like, what do we need to do next? He's very much a person that lives in the moment for survival reasons. So he doesn't fully answer the question here, but we do get him to answer the question later, which I like. But he's obviously talking about Ellie here, right? Like, they're quiet and they do what they're told because Ellie keeps not doing what she's told when she's around Joel. Like, when he said to stay upstairs, she didn't, and she came down in that cabin, the couple's cabin. The game is using fictional locations. Yeah, okay. You guys are so hung up on this Jackson thing. I like this new conversation. I did too. A gut-wrenching foreshadowing of a choice that will be made. Yeah, and I think this is really important to talk about too because Ellie is planning for her future after the Fireflies, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But she is, she's expecting to give her blood and then move on with her life, and I think that's like really important to know how Ellie is viewing that whole thing. She's so rambunctious. Okay, so then Joel says he's going to stay up all night and patrol, which, like, for a guy that's so smart and knows how to survive, he really makes stupid calls like this. And it's one of those things where it's like, you can't, if you stay up and you're not getting sleep, Joel, you're not going to be helpful down the road. And I think this leads to, like, the more anxiety and the doubt that he has in himself. I don't know if Joel really is struggling as bad as he thinks, and we'll talk about it later when he's talking with Tommy. But Joel has doubts in his ability to protect, and I think a lot of that is just because he's putting way too much on his shoulders, like stuff like this, like he's not sleeping. And if he's not sleeping, I don't care how healthy you are, you're not going to do as good of a job with anything. So I like that Ellie kind of took initiative here, and she's just like, I checked my 6, I found high ground, and like she's armed, she's ready, she's like literally patrolling. She's very mature in this regard. And Joel's still like, well, wake me up next time. And she does this like, yes, sir. And I think that's her, it's obviously sarcasm, but I think that's what she used to have to do in the quarantine zone school. Like, you know, in their like little Fedra school. So it's a very sarcastic, oh, I'm supposed to do what I'm told kind of a thing. But she's smarter than that. And I like it. Seasons 2 and 3. Yeah, I hope seasons 2 and 3. Yeah, there's no way the second game fits into one. And it shouldn't. It shouldn't fit into one. So this actress' face takes up like 25% of her... Wait, what? Takes up like 25% of her face. Stop, Drew! Yes, her features are very center and localized, but I love her and she's a great actress. Yeah, and he does that because he feels like I agree, Punish. Like Joel feels like he failed Sarah, and I think that underlines a lot of this. Yeah, and he that happens more in this, right? He thinks that he should be able to protect a child. He failed doing that, so now he's like, okay, I'm giving these other chances to protect a child. I should be doing this, and I should be doing this correctly. And it's like, Joel, like the world isn't how it used to be. You need to be able to trust your companion, your 14-year-old, like, you know, that you guys are surviving together. You use the resources you can and you have to trust each other. It doesn't matter if you think that's it should be that way. The problem is it is that way. And he's stubborn about it. He's like super stubborn about it. But Ellie gets it, and I like that. And I like how she knows not to argue with him, but she's still not going to listen to him. I keep hitting this. Like, she argues with him, or she doesn't argue with him verbally as much as she just like physically does the opposite of what he asks sometimes. And what she chooses to pick to like disobey him, I think are good choices. She took initiative, right? The guilt that Joel's been feeling for the past however many years, like 20 years. It's like he doesn't get a good night's rest. Okay, so then they have to travel, and they're still traveling, and they're talking about this like river of death. So there's a lot of talk, and there's like almost a myth around Jackson, right? Like of nobody returns from there, which is good for the people in Jackson, right? Like those are the type of rumors you want to spread. You want less people to try to mess with you. You want less people coming into your town. You don't, and they say that later, but like not some, like word out on the street, like even though it sounds bad, could be good. I also like this scene a lot because this area around Jackson felt very much like the area around Jackson in part 2 at the very beginning. I don't want to spoil anything, but when you see some new characters in part 2, this is the area it felt like they were. So that was really cool. Yes, I'm so glad that HBO agreed not to progress the show past where the game is. That was a good call. For sure. Oh, yeah, and so, like, we get this, like, travel time. We get, like I said, I love all this extra time we get. I love this travel time. Just wish the end of this wasn't so fast. But we get the Ellie trying to whistle moment, which in the games we have multiple times where Ellie's, like, trying to teach herself how to whistle, which is it's so random, but it's so cute, and it's, like, great. I'm glad they kept this in here. I liked it. It was very cool. No, we do not need another Game of Thrones situation on our hands. That is, yes, very, very true. But yeah, I thought that was cute. I like how there's little things that Ellie does like that tell us a lot about how life was in like Fedra school, right? Like she doesn't know how to whistle. Like that's kind of like a weird, like kids like that's like a thing that kids learn to do just because like they're always talking and socializing with kids, and she doesn't know how to swim. So I like they kept those part of her personality. Okay, we reached the dam that's before Jackson, and the dam's important because we learned that this is where Jackson's getting its energy from. the timeline shift is kind of interesting, but it doesn't really need to impact the total events that happen. So it's kind of a way to dictate the settings in Jackson. Yeah. Does she even whistle in part 2? Yeah. I don't know if she whistles in part 2. You know who does whistle? Never mind. We won't get there. Spoilers. In terms of the season weather, yeah. So we skip 3 months. When we get Jackson in the game, it's fall, correct? It's not winter yet. In this, it's winter. We learn it's like right around Christmas time. The hydroelectric dam to start working again. Yeah, it's really cool. And what's interesting, Bay, is in the game, you actually have to, you know how it's like a shooting game, right? So you come across enemies a lot more, but you actually go as Joel, and you go to, because something's wrong with the dam. And so Joel goes to help Tommy to help fix whatever's going on with the dam, and they come across some like raiders or whatever. But it's cool because you get to see that, like, that's like a thing that they check on, that, and then they're maintaining. But yeah, the dam's cool. There's a little moment with the dam too in the game. But yeah, I like how it's in here, and we get to see how Jackson works. No whistle, no gun practice, only sex education. Serious project to do post-apocalypse. Yeah, but like it would be so worth it, right? And it seems like I think Maria says they only got this up and running not too long ago, right? Like they haven't been using electricity this whole time. This is one of those things where it's like they stabilized, they got more people, they probably got more, like with more people, you get more knowledge, right? So they might have gotten some more actual experience and information on how to run something like this. And like, it's beautiful. So with those people, they could keep advancing. Jackson had power and established city. That's a big change. In game, they just had power and the city isn't fully established. You know what? In the game, I very much felt like Tommy was there for I don't know if I just assumed this or if they said it, but I thought Tommy really helped establish Jackson. And in this, it made me feel more like Maria established it while it was really small, and then Tommy joined in and is doing his part to like help. But I thought that was different. More people, more smarter. Exactly. How sad, because they don't know how to whistle. You don't know how to whistle either? Okay, to be fair, I don't know how to do like the whistle people do with like their fingers in their mouth. Like I have no idea how people whistle that way. And that's how Ellie's trying to learn here. Like whistle just like that I can do, but I can't do like the really loud one that people do. Yeah, so I have that in here. I don't want to give too much away about Dina, but yes. Yeah, I have her in this. Okay, so then they get surrounded, right? These are the people that are responsible for the river being the Death River. And we find out that these are the people of Jackson. And the reason they're so aggressive and the reason they're like this is to protect their city. They're like out on patrol. They have to make sure that both infected and like bad people aren't coming into their territory. With great communism comes great power responsibility. You think if the dam had an instruction manual laying around? Maybe. There is definitely like in the game, you go into like the office in the dam, and there's a lot of paperwork there, so quite possibly. So this is cool. You get to see how they protect and like how they keep their reputation. You want that reputation that you're scary, right? So this isn't a bad thing. I really like Maria here. She's in the back, and she doesn't have a gun, right? Like she's leading this group, but she's not as violent, I don't think, as everybody else is. Like I think that's one of the parts that she kind of like helped like talk with Tommy about Tommy's like violent life, and like because she used to put bad guys in jail, right? So she probably has a very set moral code in her head, and so I like how she doesn't have a gun here. I think that's a important detail to notice. But we get this scene where you can see the dog in the background, but they have dogs that can sniff out infection. Now, whether or not those dogs work, we don't know, but like supposedly they can. I don't know exactly how the blood works with Ellie and not, because the the things that Fedra uses would detect her as infected. The dog doesn't see her as being infected, and like she doesn't have, any type of response to the infection. So like, or she's like immune to it. So I don't know, like there's like a very like gray line of whether or not Ellie is considered infected or isn't. But yeah, so we have this really scary moment where the dog smells Joel is fine, and then the dog has to go smell Ellie, and this dog will either attack or they're gonna shoot Ellie. And Joel completely freezes up, which I was not expecting. I thought Joel was going to freak out here. I thought he was going to jump in front of this dog or something. But you can tell like he's having this anxiety attack almost. Like he literally froze up here. He didn't know what to do. And he doesn't like that. He tells Tommy about it later. But this is one of those moments where like he's getting a second chance, like how he, like to protect a child. I don't want to say his child, but like to protect a child. And he, like, if that dog would have detected Ellie as being infected, he would have lost another kid. And it's really scary in Joel's mind here that could have happened. She doesn't have the fungus growing on her, so I like that, babe. Maybe the dog actually doesn't smell the infection, but can smell the fungus, kind of a thing. Why is it that a scanner can see Ellie's infection, but the dog didn't? So the scanner, we did learn, does do something like it definitely breaks the skin. So maybe it's something like the scanner can detect blood. Blood work's always more accurate, and the dog, I like this idea, and that the dog is actually smelling for like the fungus infection. Gross, people. Be gross. What? You saw in episode 1 that the dog picked up when the old lady... Oh, that's true too, Drew. I forgot. Like, the dog was freaking out. Like, with the... That's right. The dog's a bluff. If people believe it works, then they'll... Oh, it could be... That could be too, Punish. That's a good point. Like, maybe the dog is just to scare people. Okay. Either way, regardless, it's something that they're using here. I kind of like the idea. I think it's cool. There were dogs around Jackson. Dogs are one of those things where it's like, if you have a pet in, post-apocalypse, they need to have a purpose because every resource is important. So, like, we now have dogs for, like, companionship mostly. But, like, there are working dogs, and there's sheep herding dogs, and these dogs are like, I like how they have a job. Like, everybody needs to have a job. Racism around Maria? Wait, what? I had to report some racist on another channel because the comments about... No! Are you serious? That's so ridiculous and stupid. I didn't even think about that. I'm going to be honest. I legit didn't even think about that. Like, I was like, this is Maria. This is how Maria is presented. What? Like, that's unfortunate. So no cats. They have no purpose but to be jerks. This conversation again. Anyways, Joel freezes up here. And it's really sad. Like, you can see him arguing with himself on, like, what to do, if he should do anything. He moved it, and he literally cannot move. So then we get our view of Jackson, and it's glorious, I think. I love this. This Jackson is very much more like part 2 Jackson, which is totally fine by me. I think it's such a cool set. Very neat. The amount of like resources and the work that you see here and how this city functions is really cool just from these shots. Like, everybody's working, they're doing something. The amount of horses they have, the amount of wood that they have, like, it's just really cool to see a functioning society at this point. We learned that the fungus grows all over the brain, so Ellie should have some fungus, right? Oh, that's a good point, too. Yeah, I don't know, Day. At the end of the world, you can't really concern yourself about race. People are just people and not infected. Yeah. In the acquaintances who are going to... Oh, wait. I have acquaintances who are going to moan to me about Maria being black and Sarah. I'm dreading them watch... Oh, no. Why? Like, just... I don't... Okay. I know why. I don't want to get in this... Like, I hate... Yes. I'm sorry that that's still a thing. Pedro won me over with that scene of him crying. Oh my goodness, right, Colton? We're gonna talk about that, but it was a definite shift, way more emotional in that scene than in the game. We'll talk about whether you guys like that or not. Maybe it's dormant? Yeah, we're still trying to figure out how this infection works and whether or not. So, I mean, it could be another things though. Like maybe there is some truth behind like the dog could be a bluff. Joel and Tommy are Latino in this show now also. It seems more prevalent when talking about women, especially strong women. I just don't like I could not care about anyone's race in this as long as their acting's good. Like their acting sucks, then I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna have words, but I like it does not. Gosh, and like, how could you hate Sarah? Sarah was like the best. I really loved Sarah in this show. When Pedro cried when he had to give up Baby Yoda, it was stop, Drew. Maybe that's not, who knows? Like, Colton, maybe they weren't, like, when they did auditions, maybe they didn't put a, like, hey, we're auditioning for this type of look on a person, this race on a person. They probably just had the auditions open and they just picked the best actor or actress. Like, that could have definitely been the case. Maybe they saw a whole bunch of different people in that position and some were white and some weren't. And then they were just like, you know what? And I'm so sorry, I don't know the actress's name here, but maybe they're like, she did the best job. I see her as Maria. She's going to be Maria. It could be something as simple as that, which is so fair in my opinion. Maybe it's something to do with behavior too. Yeah. Okay, let's move forward. Also, I like how they say 2003. Hannah, thanks for subscribing. Dope shirt. Thanks, Hannah. You're amazing. Okay, so maybe true. I didn't see that point of view. Yeah, like I think people like look way too far into it, but like I said, it's totally fine. Like we're watching the result. We don't know what happened behind the scenes. And all I can say is as long as the acting's good, as long as they can still act like the character, act like Maria, then it's totally fine by me. Okay. Did you mean to turn on S.H.I.E.L.D.? What? Okay, let's move forward. Oh, this part. Okay, first off, when Joel sees Tommy, this was just good acting. I really like how excited he is. I love the hugging that they do, the like partial tearing up. It was so, so good. But I did take this clip specifically because when I first saw this, I really love looking at this and comparing it to a quarantine zone. So you see this, and my first thought is the thing that Tommy is under, like, is helping them hoist wood up for repairs because they were they were contractors. But at first, I thought it was a place where like a hanging post. I thought it's where you would hang people, which in the quarantine zone, those existed. And I think it's important to compare these two. This town, stuff like that does not exist, even though they have rumors of this being like such terrible people, such a terrible place. Inside the quarantine zone is clearly worse, right? And I think that's intentional. I think that's supposed to look like a post for hanging. They do have a chemistry. They very much felt like brothers. Gallows. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's intentional. But yeah, very different than the quarantine zone. Like, this is the place you want to live, right? You don't want to live in the QZ. You want to live here. There's no ration cards. Yes, they're communists, but I like that. And then, like you guys said, the chemistry between these two was really good. Both of them are super emotional here, and you just like this is like real family love, and it's very obvious for onlookers. And so you get this. I'll talk about that in a second. When they're hugging, you get a point of view of both Maria and Ellie here, and both are a little bit. They feel left out. Like Ellie especially feels left out. Like she wants to be family. Oh, Drew, thanks. So Ellie very much wants to be family, and she can tell by the way that Joel reacts and hugs Tommy that she's still not considered family here. And it kind of hurts her a little bit. And even Maria kind of gets that little look too. All the actors, I think the actors are doing a great job. Yeah. Oh, see, Punish thought it looked like the gallows also. Yeah. This reunion was better. This first, yes, I thought this reunion was really good in this. I like when the former army guy finds out he's now communist. Yes, we'll get there. But I want to come back to this part where he's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I came here to save you. Joel has been through like so much hell, and he is living such a tough life. Like, he's out there. Like, he's out in the trenches dealing with how the world is now. And it is scary, and it's hard to live, and it sucks. And he's like, his whole goal was to get back to Tommy to save his little brother, right? This is his little brother. He has that feeling that he needs to protect him, just to find out that he didn't need to protect him at all, and that Tommy's not just doing well, but he's doing amazing. Like, he's doing better than well. Like, he's doing better than anybody else we've seen in this world so far. She hasn't got any emotion from Joel. She's, yeah, she is sad. Ellie is like, oh, damn. It's me, isn't it? Oh, no. That's how he is with actual family. Yeah, it did hurt. She looked hurt there, for sure. Okay. And I have this here. So guys, I want to be very careful not to spoil anything about this character. However, this is potentially a character we know as Dina. We think this might be Dina, which is a very big character in part 2. So it was just cool that we see this little, like, shy girl here. I think every single one of us who's played the game assumed this was her. So pretty cool. I don't want to go too far into this, but there she is. Okay, so we have this conversation with Maria, Joel, Tommy, and Ellie all sitting at the table. Dina, 100%. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. A lot is happening in this conversation. And first off, I should have got a picture, but they have a real meal here. And Ellie's like super. Tommy and Maria get to experience how Ellie talks and acts, even though she's a child. They're used to the children in Jackson, who are still they're kept pretty innocent still. They still get to act like children. They don't have rifles, as Maria puts it, or guns. They get to watch movies. They go to school. They're playing with snowballs in the background. Like, they're experiencing Christmas and Christmas lights and stuff like that. So her view on kids is completely different. And seeing Ellie is one of those, like, shock things. Like, holy cow, what is the deal with this girl, or what has this girl been through? Dino, 50%. This conversation was really hard. It was uncomfortable. I felt really bad for Joel here. Like, you kind of get this sense all of a sudden, like Joel doesn't even know his brother anymore, and he's been left out of so much, and he was like, sorry, my guinea pigs get so thirsty when I'm streaming. It was very awkward. But what was neat, like, man, like, look at what they're eating and drinking. Like, I'm pretty sure Joel's drinking coffee there. They have full glasses of clean water. They have, like, meat, mashed potatoes, whatever. They also had pumpkin pie on the table as they're eating. Like, it is a legit meal. Like, it's like pretty much Bill style, like maybe even a little better. And it's a huge difference between Jackson and the quarantine zone upbringing. Exactly. Yes. Can't hear them drinking, only squeaks. Okay. They were eating like they've never eaten before. Yeah. But then we have this moment where he's like, okay, well, Maria, like, maybe I can get time, maybe just conversation just between family. And then there's that big awkward, well, Maria is family. And it's like, what? And this is another, like, in-your-face moment for Joel of this whole, like, I came here to protect my brother. I came here to save my brother. What do you mean my brother's married? What do you mean my brother's expecting a child? What do you mean my brother has heat, electricity, clean water? Like it's crazy. Like his idea was so off. And it kind of is sad as an older sibling. It's you're both proud and upset. You're proud that they're doing so well, but that you're also not needed. And it's kind of like, ouch, like that hurts. I feel like Joel, he doesn't know it yet, but he wants to be needed as well. And so where is he going to get that? He's going to get that from Ellie, not from Tommy, where he thought. old Tommy or odd Tommy didn't question who Ellie was till later, especially since Tommy knows how broken. I think it's one of those things where he believed, because he knows Joel, I think he kind of gathered she's most likely cargo. There's probably some kind of trade going on here. Joel wouldn't care for another person. So he doesn't want to have that awkward conversation in front of Ellie, and maybe not in front of Maria either. So I think that's why he waits to have that conversation privately with Joel. I think that Tommy, knowing Joel, knew that there had to be, exactly. Yep, that's what, exactly. Had to be a good reason. That's why he waited. It'd be super weird if I saw my little brother or my sister after so long time and these things had, right? Like you just weren't part of their lives. And it also kind of hurts a little bit too. Like Joel's been working so hard to find his brother, but his brother really hasn't been working hard to find Joel. And that hurts too. I don't like it. Maria being pregnant makes her being out on patrol a bit reckless. Yeah, but also like there's definitely luxuries here in Jackson, but how far do you get to go with those? Like how spoiled do you get to be? I mean, you got to remember they're still in a place where like you could die at any moment technically. So Maria probably still goes out there because she feels like she does the best job. Or maybe she's out there to say like, hey, these are where the patrols go. This is where our patrol usually goes. This is because she's early in her pregnancy. So, okay. So I just have this clip. We kind of already talked about it, but this is really funny. They're explaining how Jackson works. And like, I just like how Joel has a better understanding. He's like, so you kind of share everything. You guys are like communists. And like Tommy, ex-military is like, no, not like that. And then she's like, yeah, no, this is a commune. We're communists. And Tommy's like he has this realization like, oh my God, what? I love it. Again, we didn't need to go any further with that moment. I just thought it was cool that was in there. It was funny. Creep. Yeah, exactly. That's very true. Also, Creep, just a heads up. I've played the game. A lot of the people here have, but we're trying to do our best not to talk about the future and what happens in the games in part 1 and in part 2, because there's a lot of people here that haven't played that yet. Not like that's a huge spoiler, but let's try to keep those future things out of here. But yeah, I agree. She wasn't too far along. Tommy is a joiner. Joel is a protector. He would look for Joel if he had to get... Yeah, and I think that's important too. Like in this, it very much is like Maria's more in control here. Like Maria is more of the leader here. And Tommy, while he's like the assistant leader almost, it's mostly Maria in charge. And Tommy is somebody that kind of goes along with whoever he thinks is doing the right thing. Like at first he thought joining the military was the right thing, and joining the Fireflies was the right thing, joining Joel was the right thing. Now he's joining Maria. And I think with Maria, he's in a safe spot where it's like, yeah, this probably is the best thing. He did speak of Tommy as directionless, right? And as a tendency to always needing to be helped as a negative, which explains Joel's attitude so far and making his confession. Right, and that also puts more pressure on Joel to feel like, okay, well, if Tommy doesn't have anyone, right, to follow, then I need to be the one that he's following. So, like, Joel took it among himself. Like, he made it so that he had to find Tommy because he felt that Tommy would be alone otherwise, or perhaps follow somebody bad. But Tommy has found somebody that works very well for him. I found the anti-communist stuff a bit cringy. Really? I don't think it was that cringy. I think it was like well done. Like, and it was just touched on enough. Like, yeah, like Maria was just like, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. Get over it. Moving forward. Like, it's very much like that. And then I like how like in the past too, we had Bill and Frank talking about how Fedra is more like not, like they're talking about them being like Nazis. And then you have this community here being more like, a communist community. Yeah. Okay. So this is another moment where Joel's feelings get hurt again. Like he's done so much work. he thought he was on this huge mission to save his brother. He thought he was doing such great jobs. He's doing crazy things that most people would not be able to successfully do. And this is one of those moments too where, Tommy's like, yeah, we're doing our best here. We could be doing worse. And like, Ellie's like, oh, trust me. We've been through way worse. Like, kind of talking about how they've had to camp out, how they've been struggling, haven't had great food. And that hurts. Like, Joel's like, dude, I'm doing the best I can. Like, I didn't know that like this was even possible right now. So that was like a little bit of a stinging moment, I think. But Ellie, what amazes me about this is Ellie, yeah, she wants to make the difference for the world, and like she wants to be the result of like how a vaccine is made. But I think it's more that Ellie would still follow Joel anywhere, even though it's a rougher lifestyle. So I think if Ellie wasn't immune and didn't have the goal of reaching the Fireflies, I think if Joel left here, she would still follow. Shimmer, yes. Oh, and that's right. So I didn't take better. So this is Shimmer, and Shimmer is a pony in this. So we find in the game, Shimmer is a horse that we know of in part 2. And Shimmer's a little pony in this one, which is cute. Just another cool thing they added. Love it. One second. Okay. And so then we finally get the conversation. Well, I thought it was finally the conversation we wanted with Tommy and Joel. But this wasn't the conversation I was expecting. And there were some new things here. So first off, full working bar. So cool, right? The question hurt, even though Joel plays it off pretty quick. He does. But they have this conversation here, and Tommy asks how Tess is. And like, I think it's one of those things where it's like, again, he saw how well Tommy's doing. Like, almost like everything's all perfect for his younger brother. And then he asks how Tess is doing, and he doesn't tell Tommy about Tess. And I think it's one of those things where it's just like, Joel keeps realizing how much he's failed. Like he just keeps failing in his mind. And like verbally saying, especially to your brother who hasn't failed in anything, it seems like, in the past however long, I don't know, 10 years maybe, that he also lost Tess. It sucks. So he just like tries to bypass this question quickly, and I understand why. How old are those soda cans? Where are the soda cans? I don't know. I didn't see them. I love this better than the game. Was less angry and more personal, like how family would talk after a long time. Yeah, Seth, I agree. But we also find out here that Maria's pregnant, which is not something that happened in the game. So I think that makes a lot of sense. They've been together, they're married, they have a life here, they don't have a lot of stress. But again, it's like, dude, everything's so perfect for Tommy, and Joel's just like, well, I'm the failure. I'm the one struggling. I lost my family, and here's my little brother doing everything great and just fine and without me. It just hurts. He also is holding a grudge towards Maria a lot in this. I think, which is fair. Like, he doesn't really know Maria, and Maria, in his mind, is the reason to blame for why he lost contact with his brother, which is like a big, big deal. So I can't say that I'd be too happy when I first met Maria either. In this game, he doesn't tell Bill. That's true too. Yeah, Bill doesn't find out that Tess dies. That's true, Punish. That's a good point. So there's a little like resentment towards Maria from Joel. Tommy cuts ties with Joel for Maria, and I understand the survivability and like why you'd have to do that and why that would be safest. And I'm sure Tommy and Maria had these super personal, close talks at night about their pasts and their history and their safety and their future and all this stuff. And Joel was just left out of all of it. Not only left out of it, but left to think that something happened to his brother, which is worse. Somebody who already lost his daughter, you're going to give him the impression that he lost his brother too. And I don't know how they would have fixed this, because they can't use the radios and say, like, code, like, hey, Joel, I'm fine. Just so you know, don't worry about me. So I don't know how to fix it, but I completely can understand why Joel is hurt. I think he just got hit with too much at once, and that's why he reacted the way he did and everything. Oh, yeah. Maria got to be a lot more in this episode, and it was nice to hear her relationship with Ellie. Yes, I like the little parts of their Ellie and Maria's conversations that we didn't get to hear in the game because we were Joel, and we don't, we went with Joel. So we didn't get to hear those. I like that. Joel's day in Jackson would have been those moments where he feels like it's passing so slow, so much new and unexpected information. Yes. Okay, so then after he hears that his brother is expecting, of course he thinks of Sarah, because when you hear that your brother is expecting a child, you're going to think of your child, and he lost his child. So this is another one of those panic attacks that he experiences because it's related to his awful, awful past. And they're singing Christmas songs outside, by the way, so that's what's going on there with those subtitles. But he's having another panic attack that keeps getting triggered by all of his failures. And then, of course, he sees someone that looks like Sarah, which just adds more to the whole moment and how terrible it is. I'm sorry. The way the music caption shows on this screenshot, yeah. But then he sees, he thinks he sees Sarah, and then right after this moment, a little girl runs up to Sarah because then she has a child, and it's like Sarah would have been a woman at this point. She could have had a family, and this is something that Joel will never get to experience, but again, something that Tommy might be able to experience. So it was just a rough moment. This is like poor Joel in this whole episode. It's just so much awfulness happens to him here. So Ellie gets to take a shower, which is nice. It's like the second time that she probably gets to take a nice warm shower that we've seen. So that must be amazing. But then she gets a little care package from Maria with the famous coat in it, which is cool. It's nice to always see the same character outfits from the game. She also gets the, feminine products and stuff, which is just extra stuff I like. I like how they put stuff that in here because it's one of those things where it's like, dang, what would you do about stuff like that? And then they put things like the menstrual cup in here and you're just like, huh, that's cool. They touched on that, but they don't dwell on it. It's just kind of I like Ellie's reaction. She's like, gross, but also cool, right? Stuff like that. Super rare to find stuff like that, I bet. So again, it just shows how much Jackson, they're not spoiled. They've worked hard for what they have, but it is very lucky that she gets those kind of things. Very relatable for someone who has lost someone you think, oh my gosh, when you see somebody, yeah, you think you've lost in the crowd. It you actually you get a reaction to it. And Joel, totally relatable. Yeah. They really don't show much weakness of Joel in the game. They show him properly break down here. I think I prefer it. Okay, cool. Yeah. That Joel is struggling a lot in the game, but yeah, you don't really get to witness that side very much. I like that too. I shouldn't say weakness. Emotion, I should say. Yeah, and I like Pedro's take as well. For sure. So we get to go inside of Tommy and Maria's home, and he has this little chalkboard, and it's just a little memorial with the lit candles, for Kevin, who we find out, first off, Kevin only lived to be about 3, which was Maria's son. And then we have Sarah on there, which I thought was really sweet because Sarah wasn't even Tommy's kid. That was his niece. But he still has a little candle that he lights for her. And I like how this brings up the conversation, it sparks the conversation with Maria and Ellie learns about Sarah. New character Kevin. Yeah, so really sad. She lost when he was only 3. But see, he died during the whole chaos of the outbreak somehow. He died in 2003, which is when this all spread. Same as Sarah, right? So, okay. So I like this because in the game, we were kind of talking about it in my Discord, but I got almost annoyed. Not almost. I was annoyed that when we meet up with Ellie again, Ellie knows about Sarah because Maria told her. And I was mad. I was like, that was not Maria's place to tell Ellie about Sarah. And I didn't like that. But I like how in this, we find out it kind of happens on accident. Maria assumes Ellie knows. And I think Ellie's a little hurt that she doesn't know because she's been traveling with Joel. She wants to be family, but she's not. And this is another one of those things where it's like, dang, even Maria, who doesn't even know Joel, knows about Sarah. And I was left out. Like, I was left in the dark about that. I also think it's cute. Like, it's just like Maria's taking care of Ellie here, even though, like, they're butting heads a lot. I think this shows a lot of how Maria treats everybody in her town. Like, is very motherly. She does take care of people here. She's just cutting her hair, but it's like she provides her with clothes and with food and with like feminine products. It's just a really Maria's tough, but she's got a soft side. Kevin, he got infected. I don't know if he got infected or kind of like the same as like how Sarah died. Like, there was so much killing going on during the initial chaos of everything. So it could have been either way. But yeah, he died during outbreak. But yeah, so I'm glad that this conversation, we got to see Ellie's side of this. And her realization, again, I like the acting here. Like, she's hurt here because she didn't know. But she kind of like, oh yeah, I didn't know about Sarah, but I know Joel's killed people. Like, she kind of like tries to like prove that she knows Joel. I know he's murdered innocent people. I know him. It's another one of those things where she gets hurt here. But I like her acting here, and I like how she stands up for Joel. I think that says a lot, and she does. She really does stand up for him. So then we have this super emotional scene. This is the conversation. I was like, wait, how did he not tell Tommy about Ellie? So this was the conversation that I was waiting for here. I thought it was going to happen in the bar, but it happens here instead, and we get a much more emotional side of Joel, which I thought was better. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I like this more emotional side of Joel because it makes me feel like in the game, it was more like, yeah, you take Ellie. This is, you'd be better with this, like purely just because you'd be better. But in this one, it's like, you take Ellie because I'm a failure and I will fail with this. So instead of me feeling like he cared less for Ellie, it more is that he doubts himself. And I like that shift a little bit. I like how they spotlight that instead. And I had a really emotional scene here where where he cries and such. I hugged the TV. Yeah. The intros before the outbreak were so well done in the first couple. Yes. I loved those. I want more of those. But yeah, so this was a different kind of take. He tells Tommy about Ellie and the mission, and Tommy doesn't want to go. He has a kid. He's expecting a kid. But it kind of shows again how much he cares for Joel and how he is kind of more of like a follower. He isn't a leader as much as he's somebody that kind of, I don't want to say he does what he's told, but he's more of a soldier, right? Like, he has these people he looks up to, and if one of these people tell Tommy to do something, he's most likely going to do it. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, but it is part of his character trait. Being deaf and getting old. Yeah. So he talks about, he's like, because of Joel's age, because Joel keeps failing, because he's deaf and he couldn't move as fast, Ellie had to shoot a kid. And like, Joel blames himself about that. He blames himself for that now too, kind of taking Ellie's innocence away. But in reality, I don't know if it's because he's too old. I think it's actually because he didn't sleep. Remember the whole thing we talked about, how I'm not getting enough sleep? And it's because he doesn't fully look at Ellie as a partner right now. So he's doing all this stuff solo, which is incredibly hard. And he has lack of sleep, and he has stress, and he has PTSD. So I don't think he's not capable. I just think he's lost faith in himself. Hey, John. Failing again. Yeah. Joel is so much. He's experiencing a ton of pain. Sorry, I'm going through my notes. Did I not get that picture? Okay, I think I didn't grab the picture. But so while this conversation is happening, Ellie is in the theater room. Like it's not a theater room, but they're watching a show as a community. They get to watch freaking movies. How cool is that, right? Like another luxury that Jackson has. Tommy doesn't have a photo of. I was wondering about that too, Punish. We don't get a photo of Sarah, but maybe it'll come up later. Like we'll see. Maybe Ellie might have taken it from Maria's house. I don't know. The sleep deprivation definitely will make all of that. Exactly. Everyone dies around him and he feels the guilt. Not just everybody around him. It's the people he loves, which is the worst part. The only thing that could be a problem is that in the game, Joel was so emotionless. So when he did show any emotion in the action, it was super powerful. I agree. I agree. I think what's important, though, is we're seeing these more sensitive sides of Joel in a little bit more of private settings. So, like, he breaks down here because he feels like he's alone with his brother. He breaks down a little bit about Tess after he reads Bill's notes when he goes outside where he thinks he's alone. Yeah, he cried a little bit when he hugged his brother, and that was more public. But I think it's important to know that Joel still thinks he's having these emotional moments privately, even though he's kind of not. And so I think him trying to shield that from Ellie still makes it way more if he ever does open up to Ellie like that. Movie is a massive foreshadowing Easter egg. Seattle. True. Most of these are private moments. At some point, we will see the kind of strong emotion proven. Yes, exactly. So none of this is, he hasn't opened up to Ellie yet. And we never really, we always got the feeling that he never really opened up to Tess either. So it's a hard barrier to break. People who are already in, like Tommy, that are already in his heart and in that like wall that he's built because they're brothers and they have a history together, you know, he'll break down in front of them. But anybody who's come after that, like it's hard to get through that wall that he's put up. Okay. But yeah, so while she's sitting in the movie area, like all these kids, they're just like being kids. They're watching a movie. They're like having fun. And Ellie is like doing this, like, where's Joel? Like, she doesn't like to be without Joel. She didn't like that she was separated from Joel initially when Maria like helped her. And she doesn't like that Joel's still not around. She does not feel safe without him. And she doesn't like the idea of him leaving without her. Was it a Goodbye Girl? I was wondering if anyone knew that movie. Okay, 1977. Okay, cool. So she does overhear. We don't actually see it, but she goes walking through the town and she ends up overhearing a little bit and she knows that Joel's going to leave. So she, you know, this whole scene, first off, we get our giraffe, which is there. Another little giraffe, little showing there. But this whole scene was very, very much like the game. So if you guys haven't played, you pretty much, it's slightly different. And of course, like their take on it, like their acting on it is a little different. But overall, this is like almost word for word exact. It was really important in the game. It was really hard to hear. And I felt like they did a good job on this one. So I did not see the comparison video yet. That's out, huh? Doesn't surprise me. Yeah, they're very similar. But it's really hard to heal. This is one of those moments again where Joel's like, he's trying to protect himself and he's trying to protect Ellie at the same time. He's like, I can't get close to people. I can't care about people. And also, I don't want to care about her because if I care about her, I'm going to fail again and she's going to die. So it is love that he's showing here, but it's one of those tough love things where it's like, no, you'll be better with Tommy. This is where we separate ways. And he's almost trying to get her to not care for him when he says the whole line of, you're right, you're not my daughter, and I'm sure the hell not your dad. We're splitting ways. And that's just so painful. And part of that sparked because Ellie brought up Sarah, right? So he doesn't have much control when thinking about Sarah or when people bring up Sarah. So it was definitely, he snapped back, but it doesn't make it any less hard to hear. Yes, the delivery on the lines here were good. I'm really glad Ellie, like, you know, she still had that, like, anger. She was like, everybody's left me, everybody but fucking you. And she, like, pushes him. And it's just, like, those were really key moments. I'm glad they were in here like that. They did it. Chef's kiss, yes. You think the scene didn't hit the same. Really, Colton? What was the part that you didn't like? But it was all right? I thought it was great. Oh, I have that part here. So this moment, that line, I think, is like one of the most important lines in this entire game. I really do. And, you know, she's wearing her sweater. And Joel's wearing his. I'm so focused on Ellie's outfit, but I'm pretty sure Joel is wearing a green, like, plaid shirt in this moment in Jackson as well. I'll have to go back and look. Troy Bakerisms in this speech, like you're treading, oh, mighty thin ice. Yeah, like that, like, anger that he has behind clenched teeth. He does do an outstanding job. That's true. But it's not like, you guys were telling me that he didn't let them watch or play the game, right? So they're doing their own take on it. I feel like if they would have been like, hey, do it exactly like this, it would have given them, like, we can't be mad that they didn't do it exact because they weren't given the information on how it was done initially. So you feel like Ashley's performance was a little bit better? Okay. Good old 2000 IMAX too, exactly. The scene's length in the show is very close to how long it was in the game. The difference is you are interrupted by Hunter ambush. That's when in my playthrough that Ellie starts walking into the wall and she, like, bugs out. Okay. So as they leave this moment, I think this was really important. We have Joel sitting on a bed. Like, Ellie's going to go to bed in her room. Joel's going to go to bed in his. But then Joel gets a flashback of Sarah that isn't a negative one. His watch is fixed here. It's repaired. It's Christmas time. And it's a happy moment. Like, this is one of the moments where he sees Sarah's face. It's a good memory. And I think it's one of those, I think this thought is what puts pressure on Joel to change his mind about taking Ellie. I think it's one of those moments where it's like, it's not a bad thing that somebody relies on you or that somebody loves you. Because, like, it hurts if something goes wrong, but it's not a bad thing. And I really like how they had this sweet moment, though it was very, very short. It's related by, like, the fact that it's the same time of year and that it's, you know, it's Sarah. Yeah, it's just a different interpretation, like actors or artists, right? Yeah, that's true. Bella actually did watch some gameplay of the art. Oh, did she? Gameplay of it, even though she wasn't allowed. Oh, she did. Oh, this had more heart, you think? Doesn't feel like they are copying or imitating. Yeah, I don't want to, like, I don't want an exact duplicate. If I want an exact duplicate, I'll just go play the game, right? So I like the little bit of differences as long as they hit these key moments and the key overall feeling. So then in the morning time, we find out that Joel was going to steal a horse. He was going to leave and sneak out, which is funny because in the game, who does that? Ellie does that. Ellie sneaks out. Ellie takes the horse. Ellie runs away, which we didn't get in this at all. But Joel was the one that was going to do it here. He was the one that was going to jump ship. So instead, he doesn't steal. He's like, that was 30 minutes ago. So he's been thinking a lot, right? And he changed his mind ultimately. He intentionally delayed until they showed up. And he gives Ellie the choice. And she immediately, no questions asked, picks Joel right away. And both Tommy, like, you know, Tommy's like, this is good. Like, you have somebody. So now, like, Tommy's like, okay, I have somebody, you have somebody. This is good. Offering a choice to Ellie, then she just throws it back. I know, she's like, let's go. Super cute how quick she made this scene. Yeah, because she was really hurt about, she already in her way, loves Joel. And when you find out that he's leaving her, it kind of makes her feel like that he doesn't love her back. And he's been struggling with, I can't love her like a child, or, like as my kid, because it's too painful. He's been fighting with that a while, even though it just kind of is happening naturally. So this was a really sweet moment. Trauma bond, eh? Right. Right. And like, that's the whole point too. He's like, I was going to steal a horse. And Tommy's like, I would have just given you one. He's like, the whole thing, you see, he was going to leave before the sun came up. He was just going to abandon ship. Like, he was just going to go. And like, he's like, I know you would have. And then he says that about the gun too. And I love this because Joel gets in one more jab at Maria and how he just doesn't really like Maria that much. He's like, can I borrow your rifle? And he's like, of course, man. And he's like, he like continues on. He's like, cause Maria took mine, Like, it's another annoying thing that Maria did. Like, cause she has control here. She has control over Tommy. She has control over this town, over the weapons, over everything, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's annoying to him. But I like how he just has that one more jab at Maria. And then, like, Tommy's like, I heard he said yes. Exactly. Like, the game already exists. The thought of Sarah, a nice moment, instead of her dying, coping with grief, maybe, kind of like how Ellie does in The Last of Us. So, Babby, we gotta be really, really careful about what we say here. We're trying not to spoil anything that happens in the future games. So please be very mindful of that. We have people here who have only been watching the show. If they did the same thing in the game, it'd kind of be right. Exactly. The scary wife line. That's true. That was a good one in the game. They didn't make her scary. They made her very much in control. Sorry. No worries. Okay. Let's keep moving forward. And then I think this is really cool. We have a little moment where you get some laughter here and like some Joel being happy and Joel getting a bit of confidence back. So he already has confidence that somebody needs him. It's not Tommy, it's Ellie. So somebody needs him, which I think Joel really craves. I think that's part of like why he's still alive. Like if Tommy didn't need him, I don't know if Joel needs a reason to live because he's had such a terrible past where he doesn't live for himself. He lives for somebody else. And if it's not Tommy now, we find out that it's Ellie, which is good. What's going on, Drew? Hey, John, you're blocked? So I like this moment where he's got his confidence back where he's going to teach Ellie something. He's showing a little bit of trust towards Ellie, which is nice. And he hits the target, which makes him smile. And I think that's really cool because he's like, okay, yeah, I can do this. Because before he doubted himself. Oh, maybe just trying to push the chat up. Oh, I'm cleaning the screen and my elbow hit the keyboard. I kind of empathize with Joel living for other people mindset. I think that's a very common mindset to have, especially after you have a kid. Like once you have a kid, it's not about you anymore. It's very much about like doing whatever you can for your child. And so if you lose that child, you can't like revert back to that mindset of being, independent or being alone anymore. It's a very scary thing to think about. And it's just like once you become a dad or a mom, it's like you don't just not become that anymore. So I like that he needs that too. But I like this moment. I like how we get some laughs and we get a few smiles from Joel. He has this moment where he's talking about what he did, during his life, because they're talking about the university and how like you go to a university and you get to decide what you do with your life. And he's talking about how he was a contractor and like Ellie gets it, but she doesn't really know like how it was being a contractor back then. So she's like, that sounds cool. And he's like, it was cool. Like, it's just really sweet. And I love his smile here. Again, he has that confidence. And we had that moment where like at the dam, Ellie's like, you could have just lied to me because she was going to ask on how the dam worked, but he doesn't know. Like, he tried to pretend like he knew how to siphon gas or why siphoning gas works. And she's like, You have no idea. But now he's kind of playing these like, I could fib a little bit. I could give myself more confidence here. It's super sweet. Subtle dig at how many are viewed today. Exactly. Yeah, he's like, I love that line. It was such a good line. And he's just like, let's rewrite history a little bit here. I was damn cool in my past. Like, it's sweet. And you get this moment where Ellie actually leans her head on Joel on the back of the horse. And I like that a lot. Like, it's a very, like, they're literally getting closer. And she, like, she has to hold her hands around his waist. She's leaning on him, and he's like, he's a little bit happy here. Like, yay. It's a nice shift. Exactly. Lots of feels here. It's really cute. Now, this is where I'm going to say, I think the episode should have ended right here. I think this it would have been a little bit shorter. It would have been one of those like 45-minute episodes. I think this was the perfect place to end this episode, and that they should have made Colorado its own episode, or at least had more time for Colorado. I always get so scared when happy happens in this show. Yeah, and that's a fair concern, Bae. You're not wrong for feeling that way. Yeah, his smile is adorable. But yeah, so that's my take. I think it should have ended here. I know not a lot of action happened in this up to this point, but I didn't think it was needed, and I liked all the extra information we got. Now, it doesn't end here. It keeps going. So they arrive at what is it? It's like the Northern Colorado University. It's supposed to be set up like CSU. Which is Colorado State University, which is the school, there's lots of degrees offered there, obviously, but it's specialized in veterinary medicine. So I kind of like that because we find out later that it was set up, we see the monkeys from the lab, and it's set up for, they had doctors there. So they had supplies and materials that would have been available at this university, which I think is neat because, it was a veterinary school. So there'd be some really cool resources here. That Pedro's lighter humor sections are a bit like Nathan Fallon's? Really? I didn't make that connection. Not a single infected in this. Correct. There's not an infected in this. What would you add in Colorado? They hit the plot points. Yeah, so what I would have personally added in Colorado is I liked the idea. Okay, so I liked how in the game, we're going to talk about the game a bit, I liked how there were sections of the dorm rooms that were still overwhelmed with infected, kind of like the basement areas were a little taken. I'm not saying we needed to get a full crazy scene of that, but I liked how we had to get through some of the infection there. I loved the blowtorch. We didn't get the flamethrower. I liked how we got a flamethrower, even if, let's say they didn't want to introduce the flamethrower in this because it's kind of like, it's overkill for the show. At least have some moments with it here. Have him find it, craft it, or whatever. Make it, see, it was left by the fireflies, and then have him use it, and then lose it here. Obviously, we leave Colorado in a crazy rush. It wouldn't be extreme to say that Joel dropped the flamethrower. I just think that would have been cool. I liked Colorado scenes a lot. I loved going through the dorm rooms, too, to see how, they handled the outbreak and stuff. Yeah, and that's another thing too. I really, really wanted... Okay, so I like the moments we get. First off, we talk about... Okay, this is really cute. This is where Joel actually answers the question. So now we get that question that he goes back to on what are we going to do after the fireflies. And I love this because we can tell that Joel's mood has shifted. Joel is all of a sudden expecting the future. He's expecting to have a future. And this is the first time we really get this from him. And so he takes Ellie's question seriously now. And he talks about how he wants to be a singer, which we hear in the game. It's a really cute conversation. We learn that Joel likes music. Love it. So I like that. She says, okay, well, after I save the world, you owe me a song. And he's like, fair enough. And it's just sweet, cute. So here's my thing. So we get these setups. We get a lot of she's like, they were definitely here. Doctors were here. And I like this, again, just a nod to the extra supplies that they would probably have at this university makes sense. I think that's cool. Now, this scene, okay, so in the game, we come across where the Firefly base was. Is it just me, or is it kind of dumb for the Firefly to leave a full out, unless they left in a crazy rush, a full map on all of their locations and how to get to their main base? Like, I thought it was better in the game. I know how it's like, it's weird that we find recordings all the time and that's unlikely, but it's okay to have a recording in this show. I think it wouldn't be unlikely that one person had a recording. And I really liked how in the game we come across this room where there was a guy who got infected. He kind of barricaded himself in or whatever, and he left his final thoughts. And that's how Ellie and Joel find out where to go and where the Firefly base is. This is just lazy by the Fireflies. Like, are you kidding? Like, why would you leave this here? So I would have liked that to be included in this too. I would have loved to find the body of one of the Fireflies who got infected. Everybody packed up and left. I would have loved to hear his like final words on a recording or something. This, I thought, was just like, oh, this is how they find out where to go. And it's just really lazy. Yeah, being left in lieu of the recordings is extremely illogical. Yeah, I didn't like that. In the game, they were just as passive, and the recordings kind of shock you because it brings up exactly what if question. Yeah. I did catch the music when they were leaving Jackson. Yes, it was the ending. The dude, I can't do it. But yes, I did. It was really good. It's not a smart move to leave this map. Exactly. So I don't like this. And like look at all this personal information on the left of the map, the top. It's just, I just feel like they rushed through this. Like, you could have, this was something else they could have added. They could have really expanded more on this Firefly base here. And then, of course, I wanted them to give more time to Joel's injury. Like, okay, so we have this cool, I say cool moment, but we do have this moment where we get a stealth kill almost. Like, it's not a stealth kill. Joel has to turn around, but we get, like, Joel stealth kills sometimes and, like, pops their neck, their spinal cord or whatever. They kills this way. So this was cool to see. It felt like how you do stealth kills in the game. This whole scene though in the game was so much better, and I'm kind of disappointed. So what happens is in this show, he breaks the bat accidentally, missing Joel, hits the tree, which leaves him a like stake with the bat. So when Joel comes up and it grapples him, it goes into Joel's abdomen. We don't get Ellie protecting Joel and escorting him, which I thought was a huge important moment. And the fact that that was completely taken out of this really makes me sad. I wanted that moment so much in this. They were all military with full gear and weapons. Who's going to try them? Joel's reaction to learning that monkeys they saw might be infected. Oh, that too. Yeah. Yeah, so this was really disappointing for me. It happened so fast, so fast. And in the game, I don't need the 20, 30 mobs that come in. I'm fine with just a pack of 4 guys that came in like the show. However, in the game, it was so much better because they ascend upstairs. Joel gets in another like physical like grappling combat and then is pushed, like both of them are pushed off of the balcony at this university where he lands on a, what was it? It was like a metal rod that goes through him. And while this is happening, like Joel is still trying to protect Ellie, right? Like he's like going in and out of consciousness, trying to shoot people. And then we have this moment, which I thought was so important, where Ellie protects Joel again. She escorts him through this. He can't do anything except for like try to remain conscious. And Ellie still has to kill multiple people to protect Joel. And it just like, this is where that, like when you guys are asking what would you have put more in Colorado, I would have put that whole thing in. It was incredibly unrealistic. It was incredibly unrealistic because he got pushed off. Like what was specific was so unrealistic about his injury in the game? What was like super unrealistic about it? It's so important to show that awful escape, and you've seen Ellie take control. Yes. And like Joel is legit dying. Pain. Yes. See, I think that was really important. It's like another one of those things. It's like, okay, who's taking care of who here? Exactly. They're both taking care of each other. And like, I don't like that they took that out. The blood loss in the game was massive. So if that's the part that's unrealistic, just shift the wound slightly. I mean, like, you don't have to have it exactly. You don't have to have the impale be the exact same. You don't have to be how he was impaled, like, to be like equivalent. But like, I felt like I was so shocked when it happened in the game. And in this, it was kind of like a, ooh, that sucks. But in the game, I was like, oh my God. Like, I was so scared. And in this, I was just kind of like, oh, like, that's not the reaction I wanted. Hey, Murloc. Hello. Then don't have it go and pay. Like, I mean, like, they could have, out of all the things to shift and all the things to change, they could have changed that wound, like the way he got it. I'm fine with that. Don't get rid of the escort. That's my complaint. This whole game is unrealistic with loads of things. That isn't the valid criticism. It is one of those weird things where it's like, all right, we're going to break it down scientifically that way. I mean, just shift the injury a little bit. It's fine. Or like, yeah. I mean, it could have been more realistic in the fact that, like, he gets impaled all the way through, doesn't hit any vital organs, and the only thing that makes it more realistic is they put pressure on it or something, right? They wrap it. They do something to address that wound. I mean, it could have been something as simple as that. Yeah, he does cause his own injury here. Yeah, because and it's like one of those things to protect Ellie again. Like, he's not thinking. The guy's like literally holding his like newly formed wooden stake in his hand, and Joel just like, I don't care, I'm gonna take this guy down. So I feel like that was it. I'm really bummed that part wasn't in it, just personally. Yeah, like maybe instead of like him landing on a full metal rod, have it be a smaller rod, and it didn't go all the way through. It could have been something simple as that. They could have done 1,000 different adjusts. Like, they had so many options. But instead, we just get this, like, in my opinion, a very rushed through scene. Especially when we're taking our time through so much of the beginning of this episode. We spent so much time in that couple's cabin. We spent so much time in Jackson. We spent more time with Maria. And it's like, all of a sudden, you're going to rush this part? Like, why this part? I don't want you to take out the time where it was slowed down earlier. I just want us to give that time to the earlier parts and to these parts. I want both, okay? I'm selfish. Okay, so here's the part of the bat. He pulls out, we talked about all this. But yeah, so it's just so fast. Happens so fast. They escape on the horse, and I like how Ellie shoots at them, which gets them all to kind of duck. They get to a moment where she says that they're safe, and that's when Joel collapses. So I think it was almost like, it's one of those things where it's like almost superhuman, which does happen in real life, where there's no way this man should be conscious. There's no way he isn't losing too much blood. How is he still awake? Until he hears the words, like kind of like, remember, it's like when people like Mama Bear, it's like until he hears the words like, okay, I think we're safe, they're not following us. Then he's like, okay, well now I'm going. Like now I'm out. And he falls off the horse. So I like the timing of that. I like her line right before that happens. I'm not criticizing, just talking. It's my favorite franchise. I wish it was longer too. Yeah, no, you're totally fine. We're just having a discussion. Sorry if I made it sound like what you were saying wasn't like a good argument. I'm just kind of talking back and forth about it too. It's not the size of the rebar that counts. It's what you do with it. Yeah. So I like this. So this is, again, how I said it kind of like bookends itself. So at the beginning of this, when Joel's like having his anxiety moment and she's like, you're not dying. Like, don't die. I don't know what I would do without you. And then we have this last moment where Ellie's like, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do without you? Like, I like that, even though I don't think this episode I think this episode should have ended earlier, given Colorado more time. That's my personal take on it. But it was still a wonderful episode. Absolutely wonderful. The only reason I am mad about that escort not being in the show is because the people who didn't play the game don't get to experience that, and I want them to experience that. So if everybody has played the game and watched the show, then it doesn't need to be in there, but that's not going to be everybody's case. So that's why I'm arguing for it so hard. The adrenaline crash was real. Exactly. Yes, that's what it was. We haven't heard that the horse's name is Callus. Not yet. Not yet. We didn't hear that. Hopefully that comes up later. Yeah, guys, if you didn't know, that horse is not Shimmer. That horse is Callus in this. Shimmer was a pony. We'll see Shimmer later, hopefully. But yeah, Callus, the horse. And then we get we get Ellie crying. I want to touch on this too, because if you guys watch how this episode was made, they talk about, and like we all kind of understand this, but it's nice to put into words. So let me make sure I got everything here. We have the fact that Ellie is so afraid. She's so afraid without Joel. And like Joel can't tell her that he's like, so Ellie's less afraid with Joel, and Joel is more afraid with Ellie. I think I said that right. So when Ellie's with him, she feels safer. But when Joel's with her, he's actually more scared because he's scared of losing her. And I really like that they put that into words, because that tells you why, like, he says such hurtful things sometimes. And I think that's why in the game, you get a colder feeling from Joel in a lot of parts. And it was nice to kind of hear that actual reason why. The escort is especially harsh because you're still playing from, like, you feel so powerless too in that moment. Especially because, like, Ellie, you can hear the threats, like, happening towards Ellie, the fact that she might die, and you're literally, like, your screen's, like, going in and out of consciousness, and you're like, I can't do anything. It was really good in the game. Wasn't it going to be 10 episodes? Was it? I don't know. I agree. It might well have ended just as they entered the university, really. Or, yeah, cut somewhere less integral to stuff to have another 10 or 15 minutes there. Right. Ellie saying she wants Joel to sing to her if they made it out. I cried at that part. It was a really sweet moment. Callus is the name of a dog that I believe Neil... Oh, is it really? That is a cool fact. Her biggest fear is being left alone. Right, and she tells that. We already know that, too, because she actually says that. Does she actually? I think she says that to Sam. I can't remember. She says scorpions and she jokes, but doesn't she afterwards say being alone? Detroit or Last of Us? And why? Wait, are you comparing Detroit Become Human? They're such different games. What? Are you asking which one I'd rather play? Wow, Last of Us for days, forever. What? Yeah, Detroit was a mess for me. Yeah, she does say it to Sam. Okay, so she's like super scared of being alone, and it's so sad. But yeah, so this is where this ended. So like, we're in Colorado. We're leaving Colorado. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, whew, that was so fast. I'm worried about, Seth, so without getting into too much detail about David, I'm very concerned about David being one episode as well. So I think we got confirmation that the next episode is primarily going to be the DLC, which is good. We knew that was coming. So that's probably going to be one episode, and then we're going to have one episode of David, and then one episode for the end. That just seems like so fast. Troy Baker was talking about it when he and Nolan North were playing it. Oh, that's so fun. Yeah. So that's all I got. That's the end of my slideshow. But yeah, it was good. It was a good episode, but I think I think the people who didn't play the game missed out on a lot of cool things from this one. That's my only complaint. Oh, you're hoping that David gets introduced at the end of next episode so that he gets like an episode and a quarter or something? Is that what you're saying? Okay. We'll see. We'll see. So fast. I know. But that's it, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me as always and chatting and talking about this and listening to my complaints and my enjoyments with this whole series. Yeah, Dan, that's what I think. That's what I think. It's going to go a little bit back and forth. Maybe we're going to get a little bit of Ashley Johnson in next episode too, because that would make sense for the flashback moments, right? Yeah, that's Seth, exactly. I'm in the same frame of mind with that. Fun stream. Thanks, Bae. Thanks for being part of it. Hard to tell since the trailer for next episode was all flashback, so we don't know how much of it's going to be current. Oh, hi, new to this channel. Hi, Isaiah. I'm so sorry you're joining right at the end. What's my rating? My rating? For like maturity level watching, my SR rating in Overwatch. What are we talking? Though we are wrapping this up right now. They could have showed us 5-day trip to Colorado. I wish the game did as well. I think you can kind of tell a little bit like in between part 1 and part 2. I think they were just like, dude, we need more time. Like part 1 was amazing, but it's like they could have added more time. And then they're like, you know what? In part 2, we're going to have more time. I just joined at the wrong time. I know. I'm so sorry. Isaiah, if you watch The Last of Us, though, we do this every Monday if you want to join us. The episode rating? I don't know. Now exiting Colorado. Yeah, that's exactly how it felt. I'm glad I joined. Excited for next week. Yeah, thank you for joining. I'm glad you were here too. We like to talk about. I feel like this is one of those shows that you need friends to talk to about it. Otherwise, you're just like always thinking about it. The rating of this episode. Oh, like where do I rate this episode? It's hard to tell. So like I really enjoyed the extras we got from this episode that weren't in the game, but I'm really upset about how quick the ending went. So if I had to put this in order, it'd probably be I liked this. Bleh, I still like this episode. It's probably my least favorite in the series so far, though. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just down the list for me. It's a great channel. Oh, thanks, Punished. Part 2 is, what is crazy is, yeah, part 2 is only over a 3-day span. That's true. But we get so much time. Bye. Have a good day. Bye, Colton. Have a good one. You know what's so funny is episode 3 is a lot of people's favorites and it's a lot of people's least favorites. So I love that sparked so much like diversity in reaction. Thanks for the chat, Cat and Chat. Thanks for the chat, Cat and Chat. It was fun. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you as always. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and log off now. You guys have a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow for some Spider-Man. And if you have today off, enjoy it for President's Day. Or I think in Canada it's like Family Day. Is that a thing right now? I don't know. Supposedly. All right, guys. You have a good one. I'm going to wait a long break afterwards because supposedly it cuts off early. All right, guys. Bye.